Good morning and welcome back to my channel. To anyone new here, I'm Patricia Vincent and I work as a full-time fashion designer and artist based in Vienna, Austria. I recently started a visual project that I named Wiener Adressen. This is the second episode and I'm excited to introduce it to you. The next location is a place where I love to go. I discovered it many years ago during my studies in 2004-2005. I have a deep passion and respect for beautiful vintage objects. I feel that it's locked into my soul or simply inherited from my grandparents who were art collectors. The Glasfabrik is one of the most favorite and wonderful places where I go to find objects that I need for my home or work or to simply find inspiration. I am very selective to all the places where I spend my time in, be it in a cafe, shop, restaurant, a friend's house or event. The overall energy and the level of friendliness is highly important, and the Glasfabrik never disappointed me. If you share our passion, I hope that we can bring you some creative energy, interesting stories and objects, and a bit of an escape out of the general atmosphere. Have a nice time watching the tour in this fascinating place, and many thanks to Matthias and the Glasfabrik team. Hello, we are at the Glasfabrik with Matthias. Thank you so much for having us, for offering your time to organize this tour today. I'm highly impressed. And yes, I would like to start with the beginning. Why the Glasfabrik? Was it a glass factory? I know this place since almost 15 years. So I know it from Lorenz Mandelgasse in the 16th district, I guess. And was it there, a glass factory?
Exactly, like that's where the name comes from, the old building where we used to be, where we opened in 1998, so almost 24 years ago. It was a huge factory building, and it was an old Glasfabrik that closed, I think, in the 70s. And we just thought the name was funny, so we kept it. And of course, after our move here, which is almost 3 years ago now, we just took the name with us because, of course, it's like branding.
Yes.
A lot of people know the name, so we had to keep it.
So from the 70s until 1998, the space was kept open. I know it was a huge space. So nobody was working there.
Well, yeah, there was a company that makes packaging for big factory machines.
Wow.
So there was basically metalworks going on there, but they didn't pay a lot of rent. And when we came in, like we offered to pay a little bit more rent. And originally it was just one of the 3 big spaces, and we just expanded over the years. Like there was the second Halle and then the third Halle.
I remember, yes, the 3 spaces, 2 were on the ground floor and 1 was upstairs.
Exactly, that was our sale area back then.
Yes, and who are you? I mean, how many are you owning this brand?
Well, there's actually 3 people who are sharing the company, so to say, or sharing the space in here that you see. I myself, I'm just a manager at the shop, I'm not one of the owners. And I've been here for almost 8 years now. I only found it over Facebook. Back then I was a student in electronics and I was looking for a job on the side. So I saw that they looked for someone for 8 hours.
A week or a month?
A week,
yes.
Just for Aushilfe. And so I started doing that. And 8 years later, yeah.
You are here, and why did you decide to, or the company decided to move here in this space?
But we didn't decide to. The old space was sold and has since been brought down because they built a new house there. But the place wasn't owned by us, we were just rented in there, and they just sold it. So we had to find a new place.
Soul demolished it, and
Exactly.
And how did you found this space, which is amazing and is big, 2,500 square meters?
Yes, about that. We were just really lucky. We were looking for places all over Vienna that are big enough to suit our purpose. Most of these places were 20th district, 21st district, so far out, which wouldn't have worked for us. And then basically last minute, 1 month before we had to decide, we found this here randomly. This building is actually owned by the ÖBB,
Yes.
which is all around here, the Westbahnhof. And we just talked to them and it worked.
It's perfect, absolutely perfect. The address, everything, the space. And please tell us now more about the concept, because I could read a little bit on your website, but what is all about here? Interiors, I saw also fashion. From when this idea came?
Well, when people ask me what kind of stuff we sell, I always say whatever we can sell. So over the years it expanded. It started with just furniture and also more like antique furniture in a sense. And then over the years we got more into the second-hand aspect, more in the little bit lower price segment as well. Then we added second-hand vinyl, for example. Then we added second-hand clothing, and so on.
Books, I see also books.
We have a lot of art
catalogs.
books. Well, everything that can be second-hand and is still useful.
And very, very tasteful, very tasteful. So curated, I would say. Do you also have like a workshop where you are repairing or?
Yes, I will show you later. Actually, at the moment the carpenter is in, so we need to find a space so we don't irritate him or something. But I will also show you the workshop for the chandeliers that we have and also the workshop for the wood that we have.
Oh, I didn't know that you have for chandeliers and wood. Okay, so I would like to see or to show more of this space. I mentioned in my other episode that every time I come here it kind of looks different because the pieces sold out pretty fast, and it always looks so beautifully organized and arranged and decorated. I would like to know which are your favorite pieces. I know so there are 3 floors, yeah, so the ground floor, first and second floor, and I would love to go through each corner or each floor to see your favorite pieces. What do we have here?
These are 2 old doors which used to be the entrance of the Vienna Clock Museum. The collector bought it, and you know, when people start collecting stuff they sometimes get really intense about it. So the person who had them ran out of space in their place, so they looked for a buyer they could sell it on to, and we were that buyer. These doors come from around 1800s or maybe early 19th century. They're made from oak wood, and I just think they are really beautiful because they're so massive and sturdy as well. One of them easily has 50 kilos. You see it has the nice brass handles, the nice old glass. You can see the old fitting of the alarm system as well. Just an interesting piece. Of course, if you ever want to reuse it, you will have to adapt the door frame in your home and everything. But theoretically, they're still really good to go. And they are a nice piece of Viennese history, I would say.
Yes, yes. So they were inside the clock museum.
Exactly. They were like, you have the first entrance door, which has been modernized quite a while ago. And then you had the old second entrance door behind that. And that's where these doors used to be like until 5 years ago, maybe.
Wow.
Here we have really, in my opinion, really nice clock that comes from the Art Deco era. It's from the 1910s or 1920s. It's made by the Austrian manufacturer Junghans. And it's just a really representative piece of how an entrance hall clock or a living room clock would have looked like back then. Of course, now we have another chime going off at the right time. Before wristwatches and of course phones were really a thing. You really appreciate it if you have something at home that tells you the time because you didn't really have the ability to check a clock all the time. So these things were found in almost every household that could afford it.
Okay.
And what I really love about this one, I have to show it. I mean, you can see the massive weights. That means the clock goes for at least a week until you have to rewind it, which is really good. But I really love the chime. I hope you can hear it in the video. But it's such nice, quiet chime.
So intense, but
Yeah, and somehow
relaxing.
calming, relaxing. It's not the stressing kind of thing that you would...
Like screaming and...
Exactly.
Very elegant.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I mentioned, but it's made out of different kinds of wood, mostly walnut wood though, which is very popular in Austria because we have a lot of walnut trees.
So it has a mirror, I see a crystal mirror.
Yes.
And
And it also has a little compartment down here, like the weights, when they go way down, they will disappear in this little
so
thing.
they will go way down.
Yes. It's just a tricky little contraption, I would say.
It's really, really in a perfect condition, very smooth.
Well, almost perfect condition. And as you can see, very dusty. Maybe you can't see. Because...
And whom do you imagine that would have it, or like, of course, not in an apartment, maybe in a house?
Yeah, it was probably in a house, and you had to be a little bit wealthier because these clocks easily cost around what a normal person would have earned within a year. So it's a pretty big investment. These things have also been inherited and always given from generation to generation, because you know the next generation wouldn't be able to afford it so easily.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Okay, then let's see what other wonderful pieces, items you have. We are in the entrance area. I love it here. It's flooded with natural light. And you would like to show us something here?
Yeah, here's one of the more recent arrivals that we had. It's a huge stereo system. Most of it stems from the 1960s, which you, I think, wouldn't really guess because, I mean, that's 60 years right there. Most of the parts are American made. They're from the company Macintosh, like these two amplifiers here. As you can see, it has all the old paraphernalia, like an old recording machine or an old radio as well. But what I find the funniest, most people think that beneath it, that's a piece of furniture, which is not exactly true, because these are actually the speakers.
The speakers.
And I think it's one of the biggest privileges I've had since working here, that I can, after work, sit here with some beverage, plug in my phone or listen to my favorite records on this thing that usually, originally cost around 40,000 euros. We're selling it for 15,000 now.
And so is it a professional piece or?
Yeah, you could say so.
So
Like, you could use it for a local or a disco or a cafe, as well as just your home cinema.
Amazing.
But most of it has been custom made, and yeah, the quality and loudness you can get with it is quite insane.
Wow. I would love to be able to listen to it, but from where I stand, it looks fascinating. So I'm sure. So also here you have the second
Yes,
speaker.
it's 4 of them.
4 of them.
It's 4 of them in a row, and also these up here are actually also speakers.
Really insane. So actually 6.
Yes. 4 bass speakers and 2 for the heights and mids.
What do we have here? A cabinet for
glasses and carafes and whatever you need for drinking with your guests. It's basically a representative piece as well. You would usually have it in your living room, or earlier on you called it the salon actually, which was where you have your visitors. And it's basically just a little box that protects your very precious glass and you can open it like this, and the glass will come up,
Wow.
so that it's ready to serve.
Like a lift coming slowly up.
It's a little glass elevator, yeah.
And I see almost each glass has its own support, or
Yep.
actually all of them.
Yeah,
The
it's,
bottles.
it's basically, it was custom made for just these glasses. Of course, not all the glasses are original anymore. Some of them have probably been lost or broken, or God knows what happened to them, of course.
And I see, so this is wood, all this is wood, and
Exactly, and just chromed metal. The piece itself is from the beginning of the 20th century.
this is crystal glass.
That's just carved crystal glass, yes.
So nice, so fine, it's so delicate and fine, but also
And
sturdy.
when you're done drinking, you just
Yes.
close it up again.
Wow. We are in the fashion corner where you can find beautiful clothes. I know that it's quite recent, since about 2 years that it exists here in the Glasfabrik. Can you please tell us a little bit about the idea behind bringing clothes,
Sure.
fashion?
Like you said correctly, this area is a recent addition to the shop. We started off earlier just trading furniture and bigger pieces. And then when we found a really special textile piece, we took it with us still and tried to sell it, and we saw that it worked. So over time, we started to take more and more stuff, lower priced stuff, and also everything from the 1900s up until very recent. So now you can get your average second-hand clothing just like in a normal second-hand shop, for example. We also hired someone extrally for the clothing whose passion really is vintage clothing. So she does all the pricing, all the cleaning, because we wash the clothes before we sell them. And she generally curates this area, which is actually a small area of the shop, but it's expanding over time.
It's small, but it's rich because I see that you have pieces for gentlemen, for ladies, accessories, so handbags, hats, beautiful scarves and shoes. Everything is beautiful, but you'll find a lot. It's small, but it's full. So you obviously have something for everyone.
Hopefully. I mean, in the shop, the rule anyways is no matter how much space you have, it's always too little. You always need more.
More space. Yes, it's beautiful. I bought from here 2 skirts and a dress, and I'm very happy about them. Wonderful quality, good prices, to mention that it's important. Yes, all very beautiful. I'm always fascinated when I come here inside or simply pass by outside by all those chandeliers here, the crystal chandeliers. They are masterpieces. They are absolutely gorgeous, and I would like to know more about them. I guess they come from Austria, yes?
Most of them, yeah.
Most of them from Austria, and they are purchased by collectors or non-collectors.
Well, it depends. One of the things that are my favorite things to do when I stroll around the streets of Vienna, I like to look up and look at the furniture and chandeliers that people have in their flats.
Yes, I do that too. Yes.
It always made me a little bit sad when I saw the habit of just having cheaper or not especially beautiful
Yes.
lighting, like just the LED
LED.
spots or something.
Yes, yes.
But slowly but surely, I think the chandeliers are making a return. Actually, I consider chandeliers furniture as well. They're just furniture for the ceiling, in my opinion. And yeah, they're getting more affordable again, because of course secondhand is again, cheaper than a new one. If you look at most of those pieces that still sell them, like different shops in Vienna, the prices always really shock me because it's really expensive there. Here you can somehow afford it, I would say. And they're just gorgeous in their own way, each one of them. You have chandeliers here that are the classical Marie Theresian chandelier, which stem actually from the 18th century, like their design. They are modernly produced, like this one here. It's probably from the 1970s or upwards. You also have newer pieces like this one, which is a Carmar chandelier, which comes from the 70s or 1980s. Right next to it, you have an Art Nouveau one. A thing that they all have in common is the nice carved glass that they have on them. And yeah, I just think they're a great feature for every home, and you can really express another way of interior design with them, in my opinion.
And I consider them as jewels pieces. And the good thing about it, because I own a couple, you can find the spare parts. So if something breaks, for me it wasn't a problem living in Vienna to find a spare part. So that's really good because if you break something, you can always replace.
Yeah, actually a bit later I'm going to show you our chandelier workshop. Where you can imagine most of the chandeliers that come in, they need new wiring, new electricity, or some pieces are missing. We can fix all of that basically.
Oh wow, good to know, good to know. We are sitting on beautiful chairs belonging to a set here. It feels really good to be able to sit on such a beautiful chair. And I would like to know more about this cabinet.
Well, I chose this cabinet to present it to you because it's also one of my more favorite pieces, because this is a very good example of the beginning Art Deco area where it split up from the Jugendstil kind of style. They are very similar but also different. You can see all the ornamental work that they did here, the beautiful work in the glass that they did. Altogether, it's just a style that I really like. And it's also interesting because it's a style that's getting a sort of renaissance again. It used to be not very, how can I say, common or liked, but like in fashion, you have trends in this kind of furniture, and the last years it was very dominated by the 50s and 60s, and now you can see a return of the pre-time wars like the 20s and 30s. And this piece is exactly that. It's probably around 1925, 1930. It's fitted in Caucasian walnut, which you can recognize by the very, how can I say, by the veneer.
Veneer.
That's the right word for it, the veneer.
The veneer.
Yeah. Altogether, this was probably a living room piece just to store books, glasses, whatever you like to store in it.
And I can also imagine it in a very modern or contemporary interior, simply as the highlight piece of that room in a minimalist
Absolutely,
interior.
yeah.
Yes.
You can very nicely combine these pieces, especially in my opinion from the Art Nouveau area, you can very nicely combine them with new stuff or with more modern design.
Very fine and minimalist and amazing quality. I'm curious to know what exactly this piece is.
This is also a piece that I really like. It's a little, I guess you would call it terrarium. You used it for all kinds of small animals. You could fill it with water since it was waterproof actually, so you could keep fish in there, but you could also keep like crickets, whatever little insects or lizards, whatever you liked. I just like it because it's made of metal. It predates the 1900s. It will probably be from the late 19th century. And you can also see the old glass, like how it was fitted in. It's just...
I imagine that it was in an orangerie. or in a beautiful garden.
Exactly.
And like you said, with some either exotic animals or yeah.
It's just a good example how back then things were made with such an eye for detail. Even if it's just the smallest things, you can see it's adorned with ornaments, I guess you could call it.
The way life was lived and enjoyed. Beautiful. We are in this beautiful corner filled with head-fitting forms, and I would like to know a little bit more about it because I know it's also a recent addition. Yes, or am I wrong?
Actually, we bought them originally like 4 years ago. It was a hattery that stopped operating somewhere in the 1970s and was closed until then. And this is actually a classic example of how the stuff ends up with us, because the inherents or the new owners weren't hatters anymore, and they wanted the space free, but it was still very much full, like it closed yesterday, which is great for us because it's basically like a time machine. Like that's the optimum you can find. And they had 400 of these. These are just the remains. They come in all shapes, sizes. You just use them to pre-fit the textile of the hat before you finish it. What you can see here, it's just a small reminder of the pieces that we haven't sold so far. But it used to be an astronomical amount of them, yeah.
Wow.
And a couple of them are still here. We decided to fit them with little wall fittings,
hooks.
so you can actually like just use them as a decorative wall element.
It's fascinating to see. I can really smell all the craftsmanship, and I see like you mentioned different sizes for men, women.
Yes.
Wow.
Like also really weird sizes like this one up here maybe. I don't know if you can see it so well, but this was a cap, for example. Probably, you can't even say if it's a man's cap or a woman's cap. Maybe it's unisex, I don't know.
I can imagine somebody that is studying fashion or hat making, they would be a useful tool. Here I can see many carpets, and are they old or where do they come from?
Most of them are old, I would say, like at least 20 years old. We have some pieces that are 100 or 120 years old even. And it's actually a lot. You can only see the top layer, of course, but if you go underneath it, you can see how many carpets are actually lying here. Like this stack here, that must be like 20 carpets. They come from all different regions. You can tell, for example, this one with the octangular shapes. It's probably a Caucasian one. The one with the more bright colors and the more sharper shapes often are from the Turkish area, for example. And of course, we also have the classical Persian carpets. They are also a very nice feature. If you have never tried it out, a carpet can really contribute to the room. It can make it feel bigger, it can make it feel smaller. Most of the times it definitely makes it feel more comfortable and cozy, in my opinion. Most of these carpets here are woolen. You can also get them in silk, by the way. Silk is, if you go bare feet onto a silk carpet, I promise you will not get rid of the feeling. It's the best.
Yeah, it's very caressing. And behind me here, I see many paintings, many frames. I bought a couple of paintings some years ago. What can you tell us about this corner? Is it the only corner with paintings here, or?
No, the paintings are all over the house.
Yes.
Of course, we have more expensive paintings that could be really considered a work of art. I mean, some people consider all paintings a work of art, but you know what I mean, price range-wise.
Yes.
Up here we are trying to offer affordable paintings that are just decorative and not as expensive, and also a whole lot of frames, so you can frame your own paintings or photos with it. Again, we don't have any new pieces here. All of these paintings and frames are at least 30 years old, and they cost from €5 to maybe €50, depending on how beautiful and rare they are. And also here again you can see we're starting to run out of space.
And right beside is the carpenter's workshop. I would like to say hello and to maybe look a bit
Yeah, we'll
around.
say hi to them.
We are here in the carpenter's workshop. It's fascinating. I love the smell. There are some pieces that are ready already, and this one is about to be ready to be restored. And I see many tools. What can you tell us? What's actually happening here?
Well, it's actually just a quite little space. I'm not sure if you can see it in the video, but I guess it's about 20 square meters. Many of the pieces, or actually most of the pieces that we get, have slight damages. They have some little fittings that they need so you can sell them again. The only conclusion for us was to get a carpenter's workshop in here. We have our carpenter Stefan in. He does the work that we need done on the different pieces of furniture. He actually comes from restoring furniture and building furniture in his former career, so I think he's quite the right choice to do that.
Yes.
You can see all different kinds of pieces of furniture standing around here. Actually, if you get into it a little bit in restoring furniture in the way that it's supposed to be, it's quite a science. It's not like you cut some wood and you glue it together again. It's really its own science behind it.
Yeah, I fully agree. Thank you for having us here, for showing us your workspace. It's so beautiful. It's small, but it's tidy. It's tidy, it's not chaotic. My workspace is much more chaotic, but I really love the way he works, and very nice. Here I see hundreds of vinyls. What can you tell us about them? About the music?
Well,
the collection?
Well, some people really collect vinyls and have tons of them at home. Mostly, of course, for those people that are older, I'd say it's mostly classical music, but for many it's also the music of their youth, like 50s, 60s, 70s. Of course, we can't forget that up until the 1980s, the vinyl was the only medium for music. There was no CDs, no cassettes, no Spotify or anything. So you needed to have your vinyls. We started selling vinyls originally like 5 or 6 years ago, and like most of the stuff, it just started expanding to the point here now where we have, like you said, probably hundreds of vinyls, but also all other sorts of hi-fi stuff. Like you can buy old loudspeakers, radios, you name it.
So the whole
Record
equipment.
players, exactly. You can get everything sound related.
Yeah, a piece of history that comes back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, vinyls are, in the way that they are made, one of the greatest mysteries to me personally, because it's actual physical saving of data. Like the music is stored in the little bumps that are on the vinyl. It always blows my mind how you can get music out of that. So yeah, it's one of the last mysteries of life for me. I will never understand it.
I see that they are also divided in or organized in categories. I see classical music, jazz, swing.
Yes.
But also movies, films.
Yes, we also have movie soundtracks. We
Wow.
have German. We organize it in 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Right up front, you have the new arrivals. But since this is probably not hundreds, but maybe more than 1,000 vinyls, you need to sort them because people will not come and sort through them for 2 hours.
True, yeah.
You need to give them a chance to pick what they like. There's young people coming here buying vinyls just because they like playing them. There's also collectors coming, and there's also people coming who have record shops and resell them, because not unlike furniture or anything in art, vinyls range greatly in their pricing. And it's very easy because you see most of them here cost between 3 and maybe 10 euros on average.
Yes.
If you got the right one, it can sell for insane amounts, for multiple hundred euros. So since we're not as proficient in finding out which are more expensive, it's very attractive for vinyl dealers and traders to come by, pick out stuff that they can still make money off.
here on the second floor, I name it the kitchen area because you are selling kitchens. You also sell plates, glasses, so kitchen objects. This kitchen is 50s?
Yes,
piece?
it's from around the 1950s. It's the typical kind of kitchen that you wouldn't buy in a shop, but you would get it fitted by for your flat by someone. It's also full of the typical stuff that you would find back in the day in a kitchen like this, especially this one, which is a little container for the different spices and paraphernalia that you need. You can see like brösel, Nudeln, Reis, which probably you could say it's just noodles, rice, and breadcrumbs that you need for, of course, your schnitzel and stuff to make. Yeah, this is just a typical kitchen that you would cook in, live in.
And do you think, was it custom made or it came as a standard?
No, I'm pretty sure that this one was custom made.
I see how it's closing and it has a strong magnet.
Yeah.
Closing, opening. It's really cool.
I mean, you can already see a little bit, since this is 50s going over to the 60s, you can already see a little bit the influence of space age that is coming into this era. What I mean by space age is especially the chromed grips that are rounded.
We are inside the workshop for chandeliers.
This is just the place where, you know, most of the chandeliers, many of them come with old wiring. You're not allowed to use them with old wiring because it's a fire hazard.
Yes.
So you need to rewire them. Of course, some of the little glass pieces go missing over time. So what happens here is we check the chandeliers electrically, and if needs be, we put some work on them, we exchange the parts that are missing, and then when they are ready, they get signed with a little piece of paper that they're done, and then they go into the shop.
So it's the wiring, so the electrical part, but also the aesthetic part.
Yes.
If anything is missing, you would replace it.
Exactly, and also if you have, for example, a chandelier like this one with a metal rod as a mounting, and you want it bigger or smaller, we can also shorten it or make it longer, adjust it for your custom wishes or whatever you need for your home.
For your room.
Because of course, what you also have to think about, 100% of these chandeliers have been made for higher roofs.
Yes.
If you live in a newly built flat, your roof height will be like 2.30 m.
Yes.
Which will bring you in trouble with a chandelier like this one. So oftentimes we need to shorten them so they fit into more modern flats as well.
Beautiful. As I said before, they are like jewel pieces. They're stunning, stunning. That's one of the few showcases that you have in the shop. I guess it's the biggest one. It's
the two biggest ones actually. If you look, this one is one of them up until here. And then you have a second one. We bought it from a bigger shop that discarded it basically. It's all made of brass. It's extremely heavy. And we use it to showcase our porcelain and more expensive glass that we have. So the pieces in here that you will find are mostly of the manufacturers like Herend, Augarten, Meissen, Jornay, all the nameful porcelain makers. And you can get, of course, a whole coffee service like you have here for your visitors that come over for coffee. But you can basically find anything, little wine glasses, little boxes.
vases,
Little figurines.
plates.
You also used to have these little collectible dishes back in the day where you could, like if you were on holiday somewhere, you could bring them back.
It's a souvenir.
As a souvenir and a little memory to show people where you've been.
Wow. By the way, because we are here and I just remembered, on the other room, so on the ground floor, you also have a showcase with jewelry.
Yes.
What can you tell us about those jewelry pieces? I saw there are some watches and...
Well, the jewelry that you saw in that display up there is actually none of it is real gold.
Yes.
That's just we call it Modeschmuck.
Yes, like costume.
Exactly. We have a bunch of real jewelry as well, but of course, when we're not here and when we're closed, like we basically are now, all of that goes into a safe. So it doesn't get stolen. We curiously sell more real jewelry than Modeschmuck, even though the real jewelry is more expensive.
Ah, interesting. Okay, so thank you so much for having us here. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
It's the day off today, it's a Monday, it's a day off, and we appreciate that you opened the shop for us. As I mentioned before, is one of my most favorite places in Vienna. I get so much inspiration from, but also pieces that I don't find anywhere else, and I cherish them with my whole heart. So I'm very honored that I had the chance to be here today to have this tour with you. Highly, highly appreciate it. I hope that you enjoyed, and please come here to simply see what I mean. What I mean by this really magical place. Thank you, Matthias, and we will see each other very soon again.
Okay.